Hello YouTube! Today we're going to be discussing what some people consider to be the most aesthetic and attractive physique that a male can obtain. And its name is Ottermode. So I've already reviewed Spider Mode, which is when you have a very big trunk but no arms whatsoever, which is something you want to avoid at all costs. I discussed Bear Mode, which is what I'm rocking right now, where you have a high body fat and a lot of muscle, but you're not super shredded. And then there is Ottermode, and Ottermode is what many young men think about when they picture their goal body when they first get started. If you don't know what we're talking about, picture Brad Pitt from Fight Club. That's Ottermode. It's a slim, svelte, very defined, and not necessarily shredded, but very lean type of physique. And I know for a fact that I have many people, many young men on my channel who desire such a body type because it's incredibly popular amongst teenagers in particular. So I wanted to talk about the feasibility of developing such a body for you right now, and also the methods that you should follow if this is what you want. But I also, first and foremost, want to discuss the physique in itself. For example, why it's so popular, right? Why do so many people want an Ottermode physique? Well, I believe that it's because of the media. It's because of movies. It's not necessarily true nowadays because many actors are on PEDs and they're bigger than me, but in the past, at least when I was growing up, all of the heroes of the action movies were rocking an Ottermode body where they were very lean, with a six-pack, with veins, etc. For me, for example, my first exposition to Ottermode was Sherlock Holmes. In those movies that I'm certain some of you guys remember, where he wasn't buff or massive or anything, but he was very, very aesthetic. And I remember wanting that body when I was a young lad. So I perfectly understand why some of you guys want that as well. It could also be because you follow influencers that rock an Ottermode. And to be fair, the vast majority of people on YouTube Fitness who look aesthetic, who call themselves aesthetic and who are part of that aesthetic movement are exactly that. They attain an Ottermode physique and they stick to that, which could, in a sense, lead you to believe that it's absolutely impossible to get Ottermode because we have the idea that everyone is on PEDs, and so if your favorite influencer has a certain type of body, you will never get there unless you take drugs. The good thing is that I can tell you for a fact that Ottermode is very, very realistic. This is why actually I think it's a good goal if you are just getting started in the gym, because I believe that pretty much anyone can be Ottermode. But how exactly are you supposed to get there, and what type of aesthetic are we really shooting for? What is the essence of Ottermode? Well, Ottermode, like the name indicates, is a type of physique that focuses on a mix of low body fat and balanced muscle mass. So the goal is to create something that is well defined, but not too bulky, not too massive. But why an otter in particular? Well, it's for two reasons. One, because otters have that slim, thin body that is replicated by the Ottermode physique. But it's also because, and many people don't know that, it was named after the otter because the otter is an aquatic mammal, and the type of athlete that tends to produce Ottermodes the most often are swimmers. Swimmers are Ottermode by default, which is why we named the body type after a creature that also swims. Now, something I just told you might have shocked you, and that is that indeed, to get Ottermode, you have to do something that we don't necessarily think about much as bodybuilders, and that is that we don't want to get too big. Because you could literally lift so much that you, in a sense, exit Ottermode. You get so massive that you cannot be defined as Ottermode anymore. This also means that you're going to have to do something that many people are going to roll their eyes at, which is try to not get too bulky. Now, of course, me as well, when I hear young men, skinny men say, I don't want to get too bulky, I'm like, oh shit. This guy is only going to want to do triceps kickbacks, he's going to want to avoid compounds, and he's not going to get anywhere. But there is some truth to it in the sense that me, for example, I am way too bulky for Ottermode. I surpassed Ottermode. So if your goal is to get there, you're going to have to keep that in mind. But the saving grace in this is that if you've been lifting for a while, you understand that you don't just blow up overnight. You don't just get too bulky like, oh shit, I did one too many bench presses and that's it. No, you won't see it coming. If you start getting too big or too high body fat for Ottermode, you will know exactly that, and so you'll be able to stop or revert it as well. Keep in mind that even with that physique, if I wanted, I could get Ottermode. I could just lose weight, stop lifting heavy, and that's it. I will revert right back. Another thing to keep in mind with Ottermode is that you're also not supposed to be too shredded. The goal is not to be 6% body fat with veins everywhere and like shredded abs. Actually, it would be detrimental. You would exit Ottermode as well. Auto mode is more relaxed, meaning that you don't have to be, in a sense, as serious. You don't have to be as hardcore per se, which is why I said that it's a super realistic goal, because it's not going to kill you to get there. Many people get to auto mode, as I said, just playing sports. So it's an approach to bodybuilding that, even though it's completely disconnected to what I do, because I have lofty goals, I perfectly understand that some of you guys don't want this. Some of you guys just want a nice aesthetic body that is easy to maintain, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So auto mode is exactly what you should do. Now, let's follow up with a list of what you will need if you want to go auto mode. The first thing you'll have to do is you'll have to focus on keeping your body fat percentage between 10 and 12%. These are rough estimates. Of course, it's not that clear cut, but this is where you want to be more or less, because this is what is going to get you that low body fat look without getting too shredded. Then you're also going to want to keep your body weight low, as to keep your waist tight and your limbs slim. That depends on your height, of course. If you're like me and 6 feet, if I were to go auto mode, I would need to be 160, 170. So I would need to lose 40 pounds, which of course is also, in a sense, paradoxical. If you're like me and you want to look like Guts or you want to look like Broly, you're going to want to have some mass, but this is way too much for auto mode. So this is something that you'll want to have to look after. You don't want to grow too much muscle. So even though we're not going to avoid compounds, it is true that there are certain movements that might make you too bulky for auto mode. I'm thinking, for example, of deadlifts or squat. You can still do them, but if you do them a lot and you get quite strong at them, and you get a lot of volume in, you're going to start developing body parts that you don't want to develop. Example, the yoke. The yoke is not a body part that you want to develop if you want the Ottermode physique. So all of this, the traps that pop like this, you actually want to avoid that as much as possible. Same for the chest. This is too much for auto mode. And the way to avoid this is simple. Don't get strong on bench press. Don't get strong on dips. Just stick to your push-ups, or even just get decently strong at compounds, and you'll be good. Then other things that you want to avoid is like training your obliques, because it's going to, again, make the physique too bulky, and the legs. Ottermode physique is a physique that pretty much doesn't train legs at all. And that is going to allow you also to focus on the body parts that are the most important for auto mode, like the V-taper, for example. The V-taper must be developed. So the shoulders and the lats will be an absolute priority of anyone who wants to go auto mode. And then you're also going to want to target the arms, not too much. And I would even go as far as to say that for auto mode, skipping the long head of the tricep altogether might be a good idea, because this is what gives the bulk of the arm when you flex like this. So you can dodge it. The abs will have to be developed as much as possible, but not too much either. Again, it's that game of balance that many people will like, because this means that you're going to be able to take your time. You're going to be able to be very relaxed. And that's it. You see, auto mode is really the easiest types of physique to attain. If you do all of the things that I just outlined, you're going to be good. And if you need a better idea of a type of program, lifting program that would get you to auto mode status, I actually have created one. It's in the description for you. This is something that you can run and you will easily get to auto mode. Now, I want to list a few pros and cons to this type of physique, because you might be someone that wants it, but I want to warn you of certain side effects you're going to encounter and certain things that could eventually lead to you regretting entering auto mode or going after an auto mode. But we're going to start first and foremost with the pros, because there are many pros to going auto mode. First and foremost, that it's what women like. And this is why so many young men want to go auto mode, is because, rightfully so, they understand that this is actually the preferred aesthetic for women. Times and times again, when you stop girls on the street and you say, hey, what physique do you prefer out of a list? They always seem to pick auto mode. We could go on and explain exactly why. This is not the point of this video. I would just say that it's because most women, when they envision a buff or ripped body, they again envision Brad Pitt. They envision something that is not too bulky or not too crazy. I think that this is already too much for a lot of women. So if your goal is just to get chicks, then this is the physique for you. I hope that at some point you're going to transcend that state of mind and you're going to start lifting for yourself, because lifting for women is sort of lame. But again, it's your body and you do with it what you want. Then another pro is that it's very easy to reach. So most people, unless you're severely skinny or severely obese, will be able to get to auto mode in 1 to 2 years. And the beautiful thing also is that you don't have to live in the gym. If you are someone who's social, you'll be able to enjoy yourself, go out. So if you're the party type, that's the physique for you. If you're enjoying your 20s and that's what you like, this is what you should be aiming for. And it's also very easy to maintain. That's another pro. If you get to a certain level of muscularity, you will not lose all of your muscle if you stop lifting for a week. It doesn't work like this. But if you want to keep progressing, you're going to have to keep putting in the work. With Ottermode, not really, meaning that stagnation is sort of the goal. Once you get to that body, you don't necessarily want to get bigger, so you do what everyone does at some point or the other in their lifting journey, which is plateau. But in this case, you don't mind, because this is actually what you wanted all along. So 1 to 2 sessions a week. Once you reach your final form and what you want to maintain, will be plenty, 45 minutes to an hour. And that's that. It is truly minimal, but it is all you will really need. And in terms of nutrition, it's sort of the same. You don't have to eat a lot to get to Ottermode, meaning that it will be just a normal, regular life. You won't have a bodybuilding diet, you'll have a normal diet, you'll be able to go out and enjoy yourself with your friends, get a burger, etc., etc. And that connects with the type of diets that you'll have to follow. You don't have to eat a lot, so you don't have to bulk. Because to get to Ottermode again, you have to be low body weight. So there is absolutely no need to stuff your face. There's no need to go through the awkward phase. What is the awkward phase? Well, I think that this is the perfect time for me to explain that metaphor to you guys, because if you look at my hair, I'm in the awkward phase. The awkward phase is in the middle. It's when the hair is not short, but it's not long, and it looks goofy. It's the same with bodybuilding. I've noticed that there is a phase when you transition from Ottermode to big, like jacked, buff, where you look like shit. And that period can last for years. Mine lasted, I think, 2 years where I looked soft, not defined at all, but I also didn't really look big. I didn't look like I lifted. And looking back at pictures, I was like, damn, you looked better a year ago. This is the awkward phase. And it's an awkward phase that you have to suffer through if you want to eventually get really, really big. But if you want to go to mode, you absolutely do not have to do that. So you skip the awkward phase altogether. And this also means that because you never go through that phase of getting heavier, you can also be athletic. I mean, I'll be straight with you guys. This body looks good, but it's not athletic for shit. Like, c'est pas athlétique pour un sou. I cannot jump. I can barely run. I could if I also trained conjointly for athletics, but I absolutely don't. And if I did, I would need to cut down because I'm way too heavy to be able to actually move properly for a sport, for example. On top of that, I have all of that muscle mass to carry. Muscle is greedy in terms of oxygen, so I gas out really, really quickly if I do something that is not lifting weights. If you're Ottermode, you can be a tennis player, a volleyball player, you can swim, you can do all sorts of fun stuff on the side. The more focused you become on strength or size, the less side hobbies you can have, because every hobby that you add that is physical, that requires your body to move, is going to take energy that you would want to allocate to your primary practice. And so you end up being super specialist. Whereas with Ottermode, you can do pretty much everything that you want. There is no problem with that. Then the next one, I'm sure that all of you guys are going to love, and it's the fact that you can skip legs. Fuck legs. I train legs every 48 hours because I want to maximize their size. But if you're Ottermode, that's exactly what you don't want to do. You want small legs. So don't do legs. You can just skip legs, or even better, train them by doing sports, on a run, doing sprints, all things that you enjoy. And this is going to take care of that body part, which also means that you will get to only train the body parts that you enjoy. And guess what? For a lot of lifters, I know for a fact that they like training chest, shoulders, arms, and they hate training the rest. These are the body parts that you must train. So you could be a calisthenic bro and have an Ottermode physique. You do your pull-ups, you do your push-ups, you do your abs, and that's it. That's all you really need to do. And because of that, you'll also find that Ottermode is easy on the joints. Not that heavy lifting is inherently dangerous, but it certainly is more dangerous than not heavy lifting at all, as long as you, of course, stay active, because inactivity is more dangerous than squatting heavy or deadlifting heavy 100%. But the risk of injuring your lower back, for example, or your knees trying to get to an Ottermode physique is pretty much 0% because, as I said, heavy compounds can still be avoided most of the time. So that's for the pros, and that is why most of you guys watching this video, if you want the Ottermode, will go for it. Now we have to go through the cons, and we need to actually look at these cons for a good second, because some of them actually might be the reason why you will reconsider your desire to get Ottermode physique. So the first one is that you'll never get really strong. If you're the type of guy that likes to lift heavy shit, that likes to see the weight go up on compound movement, you will find that Ottermode is simply not for you. Because at some point to get strong, you have to allow your body weight to go up as well, and Ottermode directly contradicts that. then you'll also never get to see your full size potential because you're limiting yourself. You're not starving yourself, but you're refusing to feed your body the necessary calories it would need to actually express its full natural potential, which, by the way, is absolutely infinite. So by refusing to do that, well, you're limiting yourself. And I know that it should be something obvious, but I have seen times and times again young men who had an Ottermode physique who stated things like, oh, I must have reached my natural limit. Like, no, bro, you don't. You're 160 at 5'10". This is no natural limit. It's just that you're not eating and you're not lifting heavy enough or getting enough volume in. It's as simple as that. Then another con is that you'll look small in clothes. Now, let's be clear. If I put on a shirt, I'll still look jacked because you'll see my arms, but it's not like I look like Ronnie Coleman. So this is something that all naturals have in common. But it's especially true with people who try to stay lean and relatively low body weight. You don't look impressive in clothes at all. We don't see your shoulders through it. We don't see your biceps bulging through. You have shit forearms. So all of that is going to be your reality. You risk getting mugged on a daily basis. But interestingly enough, you would never know that if your only point of reference was other influencers who go Ottermode, because they have an entire arsenal of weapons and strategy they use to not look small. But the truth of the matter is that they are, for the most part, all small. And this is an issue because if you want an Ottermode, you're most likely an aesthetic bra who follows other aesthetic bras who are either on drugs or liars. And the common point that all of these influencers have is that they all make garbage content. So the Ottermode physique in itself is not bad per se, but the type of people that gravitate around it, especially the ones that use it to sell products, tend to be horrible individuals. Case in point, all of the old Gymshark cunts, all of the 16-year-olds that try to peddle their bullshit, their shitty program and supplements and clothes to young men like you who are impressionable and who end up falling for it because they have the physique that you want. I'm here to tell you that you don't need to follow these idiots. If you want the Ottermode physique, you can just do basic training and that's enough. The Ottermode physique, like any type of physique, by the way, is absolutely free. But connecting to, again, these Gymshark Muppets, another thing that I would like you to keep in mind is that, for the most part, to be able to rock the Ottermode the way they do it, you would need their genetics. Meaning that wide shoulders look, that aesthetic V-taper, yeah, it's possible for everyone, but these guys pull it off majestically because they have the build for it. Someone like me, for example, there's a reason why I didn't stay Ottermode. One, because I hate mediocrity. Two, because it doesn't fucking work. I have a massive waist. I have narrow shoulders. They don't look narrow like this, but if you look at the clavicle, it's narrow. So I don't have the frame for it. And you know, it's a sad reality of life, which is that if you don't have a big frame, you want to cover it with as much muscle as possible to look bigger. People who have a very good frame, actually, with large shoulders and a narrow waist, can stay low body weight, can get low body fat because the frame in itself looks good. So it would be the equivalent of having like a mannequin that looks gorgeous. You don't need to put clothes on it. It can be naked. My mannequin, by itself, stripped of muscles, looks like shit. So I had to get very heavy and very bulky. You might be the exact same. You might be someone who's going to run Ottermode and look like an actual otter. So you'll be like this. You'll be a aquatic mammal thing that doesn't look impressive and doesn't look aesthetic at all. So it's something that I would like you to keep in mind. I'm not trying to discourage you from rocking the physique that you love, but keep in mind that the people that have the physique that you want are not you. Your physique and your best physique and body type is going to be determined by how you are built, and only you can decide that through training. And then the last point that I have for why Ottermode is not that good is because in the same line, it would be very hard to get to that point if you're someone who is more comfortable at a higher body fat. Case in point, this guy. I love being 15%, 16%. This is what I love the most. This is where I look the best, I look the biggest, and I can perform and build muscle. You could be like me. You could be someone that is just miserable at 10% body fat, and you're going to force yourself to stay there because you want to be like this guy. Sorry to say it, but most likely you are just following someone else's dream. Instead, you should be able to decide based on your own prerogatives what would be best for you. And this relationship with your body is what I want to end this video on. You know, I think that too many young men when they follow a goal physique, don't realize that it was never truly what they wanted. It was never truly what they would be able to follow, knowing deep down in their heart that this is what is going to end up making them the happiest and allow them to fall in love with their body, because this is why we bodybuild. We want to build a body, a house that you're going to have a good time in. You're going to be happy to wake up in your body every single day. So if you're the type that has decided that, yes, Ottermode is my way, I would prefer to look like Griffith than Guts, then fine. But always keep in mind that you cannot let that decision be your end point. Because I've seen times and times again young men who got to that physique and then who stopped there. Not because it's what they wanted, but because it's when they looked the best. And this is when Ottermode turns into a form of cope. It's what I told you guys about when I discussed this awkward phase. You lift and you lift, you get Ottermode and you stop and you look at the mirror and you say, okay, I look great right now. Then you continue lifting and you enter that awkward phase and you're like, shit, I'm losing my aesthetics. What the fuck do I do? Now, of course, the solution is to keep going because a bigger and better body is awaiting you after the awkward phase. But many young men don't do that. Many young men, they're like, all right, let's cut the loss. I'm going to revert back to what I was before because I looked good back then and that's it. I'm going to stay there for the rest of my life. But now what should have been only a stepping stone in your journey becomes the end of the journey. And I think that this is really sad. So we're going to end the video on this. You have everything needed to go Ottermode, but once you actually achieve that aesthetic, keep in mind that this is not the end for you. You can be much greater than this. This is no natural limit. This is again just a stepping stone. So don't let it turn into the tombstone under which your dreams of a greater and bigger body are buried. And I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.